I hereby introduce to you Mr. Michael Veazey.
The big things in 2017 we've got to deal with now, Greg, is obviously launching, because after the apocalypse, as it was widely felt by some people, the sky fell in October 2016 in terms of the incentivized reviews in the States being banned, and then very shortly afterwards in Germany, and then the UK, and across, I believe, the whole of the European marketplaces now as well. So tell us about launching. How do you launch a product now?
Great question. So I will say I do have like firsthand experience in this. I think since October, I've launched, I think 6 or 7 products, just a few like 3 or 4 in just the past few weeks. So I do have firsthand experience in this. I'll let you know what I've done is what's worked well for me. Real quick, again, if we look at the 10,000 foot overview of this, in order to start ranking organically in Amazon, you need to have sales, okay? To get sales, you can do it a few different ways. You can make your product really cheap. You can try to drive outside traffic. You can try to use a deal site like JumpSend. There's lots of ways to do it, but you need sales. If you never have any sales, your product's just launched on page 1 million of Amazon, the dark depth holes, and no one will ever find it, okay? So as an Amazon seller, we need to be thinking, how can we get sales for a product that is not organically ranking for anything, that doesn't have any reviews, therefore no social proof? So the way that I've chosen to do it, of course, because it's my own product, but JumpSend is a deal site. It's a place where about 30,000 people on a daily basis are visiting and just looking for stuff at good deals, okay? It's no longer a place to get reviews. It's just a place to make sales, okay? So, and it still works very well. It's completely within the terms of service of Amazon. You're still allowed to give out coupons. You're still allowed to sell stuff at a discount and therefore make sales from these items. So what I've done is I've put my products up on JumpSend. I'll usually, depending on what the product is, I'll adjust the discount accordingly, but I'm essentially just trying to offer it at a price that people want it. So maybe that's 50% off. Maybe if it's not an item that has a high perceived value, maybe you have to do 70 or 80% off. You can kind of play with it and see. But we need sales. So when I launch a product, I'll put it up on JumpSend, and I'll give away maybe like 5 coupons a day, maybe 10 coupons a day if it's really competitive. And from this, I'm just getting sales. So maybe I'll do this for about a week, and then I'll find after a few days, I'll start ranking better. After a week, I start ranking quite a bit better. And then from those just sales, some of those end up resulting in a few reviews, which is nice. It's not a review site. These people aren't obligated to leave reviews, but 1 out of every 30 people just organically wants to leave a review, so they do, and that's cool. You start to get a few reviews from it. I'll also turn on pay-per-click advertising, which, again, it's costly, but it does get you sales. So these are the ways, like, just to get started, you have to kind of like force sales for your products, but you have to have these sales. And where I see most people going wrong is they get scared about spending the money. So like usually I'll have to turn my pay-per-click bids so high that losing money on every sale. If I'm offering a product at 70% off, again, I'm probably losing money on that sale. So I see a lot of people kind of like shy, because it's like no one likes to lose money, but unfortunately it's a cost of doing business to get these listings launched on Amazon. And you just have to know that you'll recoup this money in the long term. So the biggest mistake I see people do is they just don't want to turn on pay-per-click that high, or they don't want to give away products at discount because they're scared to be losing money. But so that's the gist of it. You just need to force sales somehow. I think the easiest way is deal sites and pay-per-click. Just accept that you have to lose some money to get started, and then from that you'll start ranking organically and you'll start getting reviews. And that's what it comes down to. I'll also add, I definitely want to have an email follow-up sequence turned on. Of course, I'm using my own product, JumpSend, but you can use something else if you want. What's cool about JumpSend is it does have like the deal site and the email automation feature all combined into one at very competitively priced. So it is kind of nice that it's kind of like a full launch solution. But definitely before you even give away your first product, you want to have an email follow-up sequence turned on that's asking for a review. So, you know, you'll say like, hey, thanks for the product. The second email will say like, hey, I hope you're enjoying it. Let me know if you have any problems. Maybe the third email says, hey, would you mind leaving me a review? And you'll, without an email sequence turned on, only like 3 out of 100 customers leave a review. It's terrible. But with that email sequence turned on, you'll see that like 10 or 15 out of 100, which is way better, will leave reviews. So that's the gist of it. I don't have any silver bullets, but it works. I mean, I've done it with all my products, and now they're ranking well, and I'm making organic sales. And like I said, I had to lose a little bit of money to get started, but I'll definitely recoup that, you know, over the next month or whatever.
Makes total sense. And as you say, you've got to, some way or other, you're going to have to spend money to rank your products, and there's no way around it. I mean, it's always been the same in offline sales. I mean, you've got to have some reason for people to discover your product amongst established people. So now one or two questions about that to do with terms of service. You were talking about giving out coupons for sales, which obviously, you know, getting people to do sales without obligating them to review is fine. But I understand that anything that tries to manipulate sales rank is also against terms of service now. Now, obviously, in a sense, what we're trying to do is manipulate sales rank, right? So it's not a question of the letter of the law, but how Amazon sees it. So if you just give out coupons to people on your jump send list, for example, and not to the general public who's shopping on Amazon, is that potentially breaking terms of service? What's your view on that?
That's a really good question. So yeah, I don't have the terms of service in front of you, but for anyone who's not familiar with it, they put a clause in there. I think it was like the first quarter of 2016 that says like purposely manipulating sales rank or whatever is like against the rules, right? So what is this? You know, we have to think like, okay, like what does this mean? So if your product sells better, if it's selling more units, it's getting a better sales rank. So if you're trying to sell more products, yeah, it's such a gray area. I'll give you my personal opinion. I think when Amazon put this in, at the time it was fairly popular to do like these massive giveaways. Like people were like, especially like in the supplement category, people were giving away like 100 products every day for free for like a few days. So like we're talking about huge amounts of giveaways here. In my opinion, that's what the terms of service was written for, to try to like prevent. Okay. So now we have to think like, okay, if we're giving away like a few products a day with a coupon, are we manipulating our sales rank? It's like, I don't really care about my sales rank. What I do care about though is making sales and getting ranked organically in the search results. So it's like, you know, so of course, like it's a little bit of a gray area that no one fully understands. I will say this, even since they ever put out that terms of service, I've never heard about anyone. Have you heard about anyone like getting in trouble for manipulating sales rank?
I haven't. I've heard about people getting into trouble for review issues, but sometimes it can be really hair trigger stuff. I mean, I guess they go after the big accounts first, and some of my friends are doing like 500,000 a month or whatever. But I have heard of one person whose VA just got in touch with an Amazon top reviewer, for goodness sake, and didn't even ask for a review, but I think there was kind of an implication that they maybe expected one, and they got their account suspended for 2 months. So I certainly think they are pretty trigger happy at the moment, which is one reason why I'm asking these slightly sort of risk averse sounding questions, because this is not just a theory. This is reality that I've seen in a couple of places. And sometimes Amazon is not just about that, but sometimes Amazon will, you know, jump at pretty hair trigger things, you know, like the feedback, negative feedback over 1% and so forth. But okay, so that's interesting that you haven't heard of any issues with that. So that's obviously highly reassuring. And I guess in your position involved with and jump sand, then obviously,
yeah, I imagine one of our customers would let us know pretty quickly if something like that did happen. You know, I'm sure they'd be quite upset.
Exactly. So if you haven't heard of that, that's a pretty solid bit of data, you know, or absence of data, but you know, given the number of people that are using it. The other question I wanted to ask was around the percentage off, because you said 50% off. And my understanding again is that, I don't know if it's a terms of service thing or an algorithm thing, but that a lot of people found that their incentivized, well, their reviews were removed, even if they were properly sold, verified reviews, if they'd given more than 50% off the actual price. In other words, if you had a sale on the sales price. Now, you were suggesting that you might even give 70 to 80% off to get things moving to start with. Does that come into a problem area in some way to do with terms of service?
Yeah, another really good question. And like we kind of been talking about this whole thing, like Amazon, a lot of it's kind of vague. So I like to like base most of my knowledge off like the data, like what actual people are really experiencing and stuff. So one thing that I can say with great certain is if someone receives a product at a discount, they do end up leaving a review. Like whatever you do, do not ask these people for like do not in no way say like I'm only giving you this coupon for review. Okay, like that's definitely like against the terms of service. Don't do it. Like I'm not implying that at all. But if someone purchases a product with a coupon, you're just giving out coupons to make sales, mind you. Okay, you're just trying to get sales, and someone does end up leaving a review. It seems like lately that since like in my product launches since October, I have been getting some reviews that will be unverified. So I have to assume that these are from the people who have purchased my product at a coupon. There's no way to know for sure because you can't track a review to an order. So I don't know for sure, but I have to assume that. And it seems like these are still, I don't track it on a daily basis, but it seems like most of them are still sticking. Now, like a year from now, I don't know if they're still going to be there. It's impossible to say. But I will say that, you know, right now it is really nice to have those because if my products don't have many reviews yet, it's quite nice to have, you know, say like 20 or 30 reviews as opposed to whatever, you know, half that. So I wouldn't count on those like sticking in the long term, but it is nice that even like these unverified reviews are kind of like sticking there in the near term. We haven't been able to figure out like a certain percentage. Like if you give like say a 30% discount, there's no one number because we've done like a lot of testing. There's no one number that will get a product to be verified. So like with some products, you can give a 50% off coupon and I think it still ends up a verified review. Other products, you can give like a 20% coupon that maybe you didn't even give them a coupon. Maybe they just purchased, or maybe you gave like the coupon publicly on the listing and they used that. Sometimes even those at like 10 or 20% off all of a sudden, I don't think result in verified reviews. So I don't know how Amazon's algorithm works like that. Yeah.
Well, it's good to hear that, as you say, let's not get obsessed with reviews, I mean, necessarily, but it's about sales ranking and appearing over time. If you've got a good follow-up sequence, you're going to get your review. So that's very reassuring to hear that, at least, you know, for the moment, that you're not hearing of people who are getting their account suspended or whatever, because that's the main fear, is that it does sound like around the review side of things, Amazon is now pretty trigger happy, and I've got several friends who've had accounts suspended around that. I've got one person who's in my Facebook group who posts quite a lot, so I've sort of followed his story over the time, and he got an account suspension based on feedback, which is something that I think people are not aware enough of. I mean, I was flagged up as having one potential, you know, the account being at risk because of feedback. But what you're saying is that the sales rank side of things they aren't seeming as trigger happy. You haven't heard of problems, and with the number of people you must have coming through JumpSend, I should say, that sounds pretty sound, based on actual good numbers.
Yeah, real quick, we can talk about like risk aversion, like you were saying though. You know, like I wouldn't, like I said, I'm giving away like 5 or 10 units a day. Okay, and in my opinion, that's not like manipulating sales rate. I don't think that's what they mean when they wrote that in there. If I started giving away 100 units a day or 500 units a day, I would think it's probably a lot more likely that Amazon will come knocking on your door. So yeah, you have to kind of be mindful of those things. And then with the reviews, like I said earlier, but I'll just emphasize this again in case anyone, maybe they weren't around, you know, at the end of 2016, but you cannot give a coupon with the purpose of getting a review or expect a review or require a review or anything else. There's no more incentivized reviews. Don't do it.
Yeah, good to just make sure that message just got out there in case somebody's been living under a rock somewhere. Yeah. So you were just talking about you know, the adjusting to new realities in 2017. Well, I suppose it's the beginning of 2017 or the end of 2016 that we've had to deal with that. Good to know that JumpSend's still an option. I have to say myself, having tried to launch things without using a launch service in October, November, December time with the new couple of products in the UK, because we were a bit too risk averse. I think having had friends with account suspensions does kind of sharpen your mind on that, but possibly we overreacted. Good to know that option is still available. But
did I ever talk to you about like our communication with Amazon lawyers and like them clarifying some things about the reviews?
No, I
I
don't
don't.
think we ever talked about that. So yeah, I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, so anytime like you talk to someone at Seller Central, you know, it's a really poor quality experience, right? Like they don't know what they're talking about. Like sometimes like people will post something, it's like, all right, but like one person at the bottom of the totem pole said that and they haven't been trained on it. So we actually, myself, I know some of the other people who at the time had like review clubs. We actually got an opportunity to speak with some of the Amazon lawyers, which at first like was pretty scary for me. But after that, it turned out to be pretty cool because they actually were really helpful. I think like at the end of the day, they were willing to help us just to make sure that like the whole industry like becomes much more like legitimate and they're not doing like the whole incentivized review thing. But some of the things that aren't in the terms of service, but they did put in writing to clarify with us. And I'll just say these like for people who are figuring out like how to get more sales in the future are big picture is you can't incentivize someone who you're giving a coupon to in any way to leave a review. So an example of this would be, you know, I think some people, like especially like Facebook groups, were guilty of this. There was a lot of like wink, wink, nudge, nudge type stuff going on, which Amazon's not cool with. So maybe they were saying like, you don't have to leave a review, but if you do, you get more coupons. Like that's not okay. So if you could, let's see, a few things I said was if you could view the reviewer, the shopper's review profile and see if they left a review, like that's something like they're not cool with, because that would mean that like, okay, maybe you don't require a review when you give a coupon, but you can still figure out whether they left a review or not, and maybe kick them out of like the group or whatever else, you know? So that was something they specifically said they're not okay with. Any type of thing, like if they could get more deals or had access to like more coupons or something, if they left a review, that's something they're not okay with. I'm trying to think. There was one or two other ones.
So
Like
it's basically
picture,
any way of checking up on reviews and any way that any action you can take whatsoever is in any way linked to reviews or not, isn't it really?
yeah, more or less. Like, yeah, you can't. Yeah, that's exactly right. So, you know, I think a lot of people were like, okay, we won't require a review, but we'll still know whether they left a review or not, and I can check that and whatever else. That they're not cool with that. So that's when Review Kick was relaunched as Jump Send. It's like totally by the books. We got the lawyer's blessings on it. So you give out coupons to people, but you have no idea who these people are. You can't follow up to see if they actually left a review. You can't, you know, people who leave more reviews don't get more coupons or anything like that. You're just giving away coupons in the hopes to get more sales, okay? That's all it is. So you can keep those things in mind. And something else I'll just say that kind of surprised me is like Amazon's not dumb. Like they're, especially like their legal team, they're very in the loop of everything that's going on. So you'll like, if you're like in some of like, say like these Facebook groups that are doing some like wink, wink, nudge, nudge type stuff, like I wouldn't be surprised if like one of those people in the group's also like an Amazon lawyer or something. They're very in tune with what's going on in the industry. So yeah, they're not dumb.
I love the way that sometimes people try and fly under the radar. Like this is some kind of little niche group of a handful of people doing this. I mean, like the third party marketplace accounts for about a third of Amazon's revenue, and it's one of the biggest companies in the world. I mean, this is not subtle stuff, you know. It's like this is a kind of outsider mentality that is just doesn't time with reality. So yeah, thank you for checking that reality in again. I mean, I had somebody the other day on my own Facebook group saying, oh, you know, I was thinking of leaving a Facebook group, you know, joining a Facebook group and leaving reviews for other sellers. I'm like, that's a really, really bad idea. You know, Amazon is one of the best tech companies in the world. Don't be stupid about this. I mean, even Jeff Bezos is a computer programmer, you know.
Right. Yeah.
These guys somehow, you know, you just can't fool Amazon. That's the thing. You just can't.
Right. It's best just to abide by the rules. That way you're not worried about your account and all that kind of stuff. So
exactly. I mean, account suspension is not fun, and it does happen. But yeah, it's not worth it. I totally agree. So thanks for clarifying. That's a very interesting insight that you've actually talked to their lawyers.